It's about to get general! All right, if you guys can actually take a seat. Those are sweet shirts. I mean, you can stay up here for 45 minutes. Do you want to? You can if you want. Great, you guys having a good afternoon? There's still time if you have those relationship questions. Direct message me. Direct message me. Direct message me. So that cat is not mine. I don't really like cats that much. I needed to get a parish directory photo, and I was single at the time, so I'm like, if I can't have a family, I want to have an animal that I don't like. And so in the parish photo directory, it says Brian Kissinger and Piddles. Piddles the cat. The cat's real name was Saturn, but he never read the directory, so it's okay. Sweet. All right, as you guys come to your seats, we're going to get started in just a minute. I'm going to wait. I know there's still people coming in. So how was the women's session? Isn't Mary so good? How about the men's session? Girls, you missed it. Bob brought his son Anthony here. It was beautiful. Just kidding. Anthony's his pig, not his son. So let's see again. Raise your hand if you're here at a conference for the first time. That's awesome. It is so great that you're here. And raise your hand if you've been here before or to a conference before. Sweet. We are so glad that you're here. All right, we can take my nasty picture down. Great. Are you guys ready for this afternoon session? So again, if you want to direct message me any questions, just do it in the next couple minutes, and then we'll come up with the questions, and I'm going to ask our speaker. You guys have not met her yet this weekend, but you're going to hear from her today, and then you're going to hear from her again tomorrow. She's on a 13-day streak of eating mint chocolate chip ice cream every day. So she is motivated. She is committed. She's originally from New England, but she now lives in the swamps of Tallahassee. Let's give it up for Kelly Colangelo.
So I'm actually on a 14-day streak, okay? So today's 14 days for mint chocolate chip ice cream. So if you're a cookie dough ice cream fan, I am so sorry, but mint chocolate chip is way better, all right? Heck yeah. Okay, everyone turn to the person next to you and give them a high five. Everyone turn to the other person and say, hey, I'm really glad you're sitting next to me. Everyone turn to the person behind you and stare deep down into their eyes. No, wait, don't do that. That's creepy, okay? And that's why we're talking about relationships. All right. So like Brian said, my name is Kelly Colangelo, and I live in the Sunshine State of Florida. So, wait, are you guys from Florida? Awesome. Okay, awesome. Are you guys Knoll fans or Gator fans? Okay, it's a mix. Okay, we'll talk later. But I'm super pumped to be here with you and share today about relationships. Just a few fun facts about myself. So like I said, I live in Florida. And here's just 3 really basic things all of my friends know. I like bacon, I like roller coasters, and I love Jesus. Okay? Bacon, roller coasters, and Jesus. So today, the keynote is on relationships. And here's the thing, if you were here last year, you would know Steubenville sends you guys a survey. And in the survey they say, hey, what are some of the topics you want to hear about next summer? So if you took that survey, the overwhelming response was relationships. And when I say relationships, I'm not just talking about dating relationships, but all types of relationships. Family, brother, sister, parents, neighbor, cousin, anyone, all types of relationships. So we're going to unpack that topic today. And when I think about relationships, I think about Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro. So what is Kilimanjaro? I'm going to show you what Kilimanjaro is and unpack why I feel like it's so essential to relationships. Here we go. Maybe we could pull the first slide up for me. I don't think the clicker is working. Sweet. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is Kilimanjaro, and I'm going to explain to you how I experienced Kilimanjaro and why it connects so directly to relationships. So I'm at this water park with a bunch of my friends. I'm at this water park, and from a distance, we see this. Okay, and from a distance, when we see this, we're like, let's do it. We're so excited. Let's go on it. And then as I was like approaching it, and as I got closer and closer, the slide kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, what did I just sign up for? Like, I'm in for it. So the thing is, we had to climb 14 flights of stairs to get to the top to go down this. So here's the thing. As I got closer, I started getting more and more anxiety, and I started saying, like, the name Killer is in the title of the slide. Like, what is going to happen to me? Like, what did I just sign up for? And as I got closer, and as we climbed the stairs, and we were waiting, and it was really, really hot and really sunny, and as I'm getting a sunburn, and as I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, this is so stupid, Kelly. And we're waiting, and then, like, they have all these signs and these rules, like, you should not go on this water slide if you're older, or if you have a heart attack, or if you might have, like, heart issues, it might create a heart attack. Nothing is guaranteed, like, AKA you might die, okay? And they have all these, like, warnings, and then finally, like, when you got closer to the top, I saw it's a water slide that takes 12 seconds. It drops you, like, 120 feet, and it goes 50 miles per hour. So I'm like, like, should I do it? Should I not? And then my friends who I thought, like, I was close with, they're like, Kelly, you're gonna go first. And I was like, no. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, I'm really scared. Now, here's a side note. I really like adventure. I like hiking. I like zip lining. I love roller coasters. But as I got closer to the top of this water slide, I was like, nah, you know what? I don't think Kilimanjaro is calling my name. Like, I just don't feel called to go down this. And then my friends were like, Kelly, you are doing it. And have you ever had friends who, like, kind of force you to things you don't really want to do? I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, you're doing it, and you're going first. And I was like, oh, boy. I was like, there is no turning back at this point. It's kind of like that sports motto, like, go all in, go big or go home. And this was my moment that I had to go down this crushing water slide. So we finally get up to the top. And there's a lifeguard at the top of the water slide to kind of get you situated before you go down, give you some instructions. And there's a lifeguard down at the bottom of the water slide. So it comes to be my turn. I get to the top of the water slide, and there's like 2 bars you hold on so you just don't slip down right away. And the lifeguard goes over, okay, like, when you sit on top of it, you really don't want to slide down or else you'll go. You want to stay at the very edge. And when you're ready, you're going to cross your arms, and then you'll slide down. And my friends knew, like, I was a little bit hesitant. I was a little more reserved. I was nervous. Like, I really, like, did not want to do that. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So the lifeguard goes, okay, I'm going to count 3, 2, 1. So I'll count you down. Once I count you down, I'll have your friends give you a gentle nudge so you could start going. Okay? And I was like, I think this, like, my day keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Like, I don't know how I'm going to recover. Now, the other thing you must know, and this is also a side note, when we are about to experience threat, sometimes, like, we have 2 different responses. So we have a fight response, so, like, we go after it and we fight, or we have a flight response where it's like we want to avoid danger, we want to avoid potential threat, and we just run away from it. My response was both of them. Like, I wanted to conquer this water slide because I wanted to be able to show my friends, dude, I did it, okay? Like, get over it. I also, like, every part of my inside wanted to run, like wanted to go down, book down those 14 flights of stairs. And another response that I had, and this response might be a little TMI, but like as soon as I sat down and like gripped the bars, you feel all this like water rushing from back of you. And to be quite honest, like I just started to pee. Like that was my response to my anxiety and to my nervousness. And I like remember going to my friends like, I don't think I can do this. Like I really like, I'm not sure I'm gonna make it. Killer, remember killer is in the title of the water slide. So the lifeguard goes over the instructions again. Hold on to the railings. When you're ready, cross your arms. Once you cross your arms, I'll count down 3, 2, 1, and your friends will gently, insert gently, nudge you down. I was like, okay, it's now or never, okay? So I'm at the bars, my hands are at the bars, I cross my arms, the lifeguard goes 3, 2, and my friends push me. And like for the first 2 seconds as I'm going down the slide, I am so mad at those friends, and I was trying to turn my head back to be like, you jerks, like I can't believe you did that to me. But as I was going down, the wind, like just like I felt like my skin was pulling off of my face because that's how fast I was going. And actually like I was crying, but it was not like an emotional cry. It was like a cry as a response to like, you're going so fast. And the tears, like, they just flow. Like, they just come out. And I remember once I hit the bottom, and, you know, I survived. Like, I'm here to say I survived Kilimanjaro. Once I hit the bottom, I was like, ah. And it taught me so much about relationships, about what we're going to talk about. Because relationships go beyond the surface. Relationships, they push you to something sometimes you're uncomfortable with. They push the limit. They really encourage you like to be bold, to be vulnerable. Sometimes relationships are scary. Sometimes you have reservations. Sometimes you're hesitant about certain relationships you're in. But they push you to go beyond the surface level. And when you go on beyond the surface level, it's easier said than done. Okay, so relationships, I've been in so many relationships as a daughter, as a friend, as a sister, as a youth minister, as a roommate. So I've been in a number of serious relationships. And if I've learned anything, relationships should always point you to the good, the true, and the beautiful. They should always point you towards goodness. We know that scripture, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So I just want to focus in on the love your neighbor as yourself. First of all, this is sometimes really hard to do because sometimes we all don't love ourselves, or we don't love ourselves well. And sometimes loving our neighbor is also hard because our neighbor, so like our family member, our friend, insert whoever, has hurt us. They've created a good amount of hurt in our life as a result of relationships. So I'm up here to talk about relationships and tell you, yes, I've been in a number of relationships and serious relationships, but like I'm not perfect. In a lot of ways in my life, I've struggled to love people. I've struggled to love people well as I should. But I just want to share about how I've been able to find Christ, who's the source of all good things in my relationships, and give you some advice about how do we have healthy relationships. Again, not just with your boyfriend or girlfriend, but like in our families, with our friends. And the first relationship I want to share about is Jesus. So like, first and foremost, you need to know, and it was not the case when I was in high school until I was a senior, but my relationship with Jesus is my number one. So Jesus is always my number one, and everyone else is number two. When I was a senior in high school, I gave my life to Jesus. I fell in love with Jesus, and I knew my life was changed. And I made a commitment to follow Jesus day in and day out through the good, through the bad, through the mediocre. And my relationship with Jesus has completely changed me, changed who I am, and how I know and where I know I'm made for eternity with him. We also have a relationship with our family. So when I say the word family, some of you might be thinking, oh, my mom, like she just drives me crazy. Or my dad, he has so many rules. My brother and sister, they're so annoying. Maybe some of you are thinking, I love my parents. Like, I love my siblings. I can't think of life without them. And maybe some of you are thinking, I really don't know what it's like to be in a relationship with a family. Like, my family hasn't portrayed that to myself. So wherever you are in regards to family relationships, I want you to know that God has placed you in your family for a reason, for a very specific reason. And if we don't experience love and forgiveness and charity in our family, you and I, we're called to bring those gifts to others. We're called to bring those gifts to our family. One of the most important lessons I learned in my family are these 3 lines. I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I love you. I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I love you. St. John Paul II called the family school of love. So if we can be raised in our family, if we could get along with our family members, we can really do anything in life because we're constantly immersed with them. So the school of love. The next, friendships and dating relationships. I want to give you the best advice I've ever learned. You choose your friends, you choose the people you date, don't let them choose you. You are a reflection of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Well, right now I want you to think, who are those 5 people? Like, who do you hang out with the most? Think about it. And now I want to ask you a few questions. Are they selfish? Are they lazy? Do they lead you to sin? Do they lead you to make poor decisions for yourself? Because here's the thing, if they're lazy, you're ultimately going to become lazy. If they are like self-seeking and selfish, we are going to become selfish. If they lead you to darkness, we are going to be led to darkness. So when I was in high school, I had this group of friends, and we were all on the soccer team together. My parents gave me their car, and I was like, okay, I'm going to drive a bunch of my friends, and we're going to go to practice. And as I'm driving, we've got the windows open, we're blaring music, and my friends are like, go faster, go faster. So I went faster, and the music is louder, we're all screaming, we have our hands out the window, and then a mile later, you all know what I'm going to say? I got pulled over. So I get pulled over, and I was going 77 in a 45. Now, yeah. Oh, shoot, dang. Yeah, it was bad. And here's the other, fact. My dad is a police officer. So, that really didn't go over well with my parents. Like I was grounded for life until last weekend, okay? So, those friends encouraged me to drive recklessly. Yes, I did drive recklessly myself, but they encouraged me to drive recklessly. The other thing, I had a group of friends who, by nature, because I was in some of the same classes, we were on the same sports teams, we did the same drama performances, I hung out with them on the weekends. And because I hung out with them on the weekends, some of the things they did, they liked to party, they liked to drink, they liked to surround themselves by things that were not holy and things that were bad. And because I put myself in these situations, I also got into drinking, I also got into partying. And then I had my experience with Jesus. And when I experienced Jesus, I was like, man, I have really crappy friends. I have really bad friends, and I need to get new friends. And I recognized what I was doing was not what God was calling me to do, not what God was pushing me to do. So when I recognized I needed new friends, I heard this one saying, friendship is like an elevator. Friends bring you up or friends bring you down. What do your friends do? What do my friends do? We're called to have friends, and I found friends that I could pray with, that I could do fun things with, and I didn't feel guilty after, that I could go on adventures, I could go ziplining with, I could go on Kilimanjaro with. I found friends like that who brought me up, who called me up. All of our friends should be our accountability partners, and sometimes when we hear the word accountability, we think, like, it's just people calling you out, it's just people, like, pointing out your flaws. Accountability calls you up. Someone calls you to where you're made to be. And you and I, we are made for God, and we are made to be in eternity with him. So do you have friends who call you to goodness? Do you have friends who call you to good things, who help you make good choices? And flowing from friendship is dating. So some of you are probably like, yeah, my boyfriend and girlfriend, they're here. Or my boyfriend and girlfriend, they're home. Whatever it is, not everyone has a boyfriend or girlfriend, but like, what does it mean to date? Like, what does it mean to date in high school, and what does that look like? I want to tell you, at the basis of every dating relationship is friendship. So if you're not friends with the person you date or the person you're dating, like, it's probably not going to work. Sorry, but it's definitely not going to work if you're not friends with that person. And just like friendship, dating, the people we hang out with, the people we date, they should call us to be the greatest versions of ourselves. They should push us to go to the cross. They should push us to go to heaven. Do they do that? Do the people we date, do they call us forward? Do they call us to heaven? One of the best things I ever heard about dating, it always ends in two ways: breakup or marriage. So thinking about, like, am I dating the person I might potentially, like, be engaged to and get married to? Or am I dating the person, dude, I know we're not going to make it. We're, like, breaking up next week. Like, or we're going to break up next year. We're going to break up after prom or after homecoming. You know what I mean? So, like, think about, are you avoiding something? Are we avoiding something? Dating should always call you up. Dating relationships should always call you to heaven. I want to talk about 4 ways that we all could experience healthy and whole and just good relationships. And the first way is seeing others as God sees them. Seeing others as God sees them. So I want you to think about, like, the person who gets under your skin the most, like the person who is just so annoying and you're like, I really can't stand them. Think about them, and then think about the way God looks at them. Here's the thing, our love, yours and mine, is imperfect. God's love is not. God's love is perfect, is whole. And when we look at other people, can we see them through the lens God sees them? Mother Teresa said this saying in India, as you, like, go forward and you greet people, you say hi and goodbye, it's namaste. Namaste. I think I'm saying it right. Namaste. And when you translate that, that means I honor the Holy One who lives inside of you. Now, I just want you to think about that for a minute. I honor the Holy One who lives inside of you. Can you picture yourself walking through school or on the athletic field or in your families thinking, I honor the holy person who lives inside of them. Like, I honor them. See, we don't do that. Like, we don't think of it like that. But I want you to try. Like, I want you to think about the person you're sitting next to, the person you're sharing a room with, the person you're going home with, the people on your bus who smell and who, you know, whatever. Like, I honor the Holy One who lives inside of them. Crazy. So seeing as God sees them. The next, oh, sorry, I was hitting the wrong button, is authenticity. So my friend says, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. So it's kind of cheesy, but I like it. Be yourself because everyone else is already taken. So what does it mean to be authentic? What does it mean to be real? What does it mean, like, to say and to post something on Instagram that we're really feeling? And I think one of the easiest ways to be fake is through the use of social media. I was talking to this teen a few weeks ago, and she posted this, like, really nice and cute picture of her and her chacos, like, sitting out. outside her backyard. And I was like, oh, dude, it looked like you had a really cool, restful day, you know? And she's like, no, I failed my summer school exam. I broke up with my boyfriend and my parents were fighting. I was like, but why did you post that on Instagram? Like, it looked amazing. So how many times do we present something that's false? How many times do we present this image that's really not what we're feeling or really not what we're doing? And I think sometimes we look through like, well, I need to present myself in like a perfect way, or I need to present myself in a way that others think fill in the blank. I want to challenge you this weekend to use social media for the good. When I came to the Steubenville Youth Conference, I would get home on Monday and go to my practices and stuff like that, and my friends would be like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? And I'd be like, oh, you know, I was like away. Like, I didn't tell them I was essentially at like Jesus camp for the weekend because I wasn't sure what they would think of me. But like, I want to challenge you to post something about this weekend, to post what God is doing in your life, what God is calling you to. The next is self-gift versus use. So to demonstrate this, I want to show you a clip from the coolest and the best superhero movie ever, Captain America.
When you brought a 90-pound asthmatic onto my army base, I let it slide. I thought, what the hell? Maybe it'd be useful to you, like a gerbil. Look at that. He's making me cry. Hodge passed every test we gave him. He's big, he's fast, he obeys orders, he's a soldier.
He's a bully.
You don't win wars with niceness, Doctor. You win wars with guts. Grenade! Oh, get away! Get back!
It's a dummy grenade.
Is this a test?
He's still skinny.
So I love this movie and I love this clip because Steve Rogers shows what does it mean to be a self-gift? Like, what does it mean to give yourself for the other? What does it mean to lay down your life for someone else? So this quote from the Gospel of John, no one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. So can we do that? Because I think the world and our culture tells us we can't do that. I think the world says, like, we need to use other people. Like, we need to know, like, what can we get from a relationship? What can we get from a situation? When you think about it, the church says something really beautiful and amazing to this point, self-gift versus use, recognizing who you are, who God made you to be, and where God is calling you. How can we be a gift for someone else? The church tells us about the virtue of chastity. And I know as soon as I say the word chastity, you're going to be like, she's going to tell us we can't have sex, or she's going to, give us the sex talk now. That's not it at all. I want to introduce you to the virtue of chastity, but I want you to know, like, what is it? Like, what is the definition of chastity, and how do we live it, and how are we called to live it in our lives? So, chastity is not about using others. Chastity is a choice to choose the greatest good in every relationship. So just like Steve Rogers in Captain America chose to give his life for his brothers who on the mission field, like, they made fun of him. They tried derailing him from the mission. They did not want him to succeed. Yet he chose to be a gift for others. Like, he chose to give his very self. Now, you and I, we're probably not going to be called to jump on grenades, but we're going to be called to stand up for what is true. We're going to be called to choose love, to choose the greatest good in all of our relationships. So specifically, chastity is not about saying no to sex, but it's about saying yes to God's plan for our sexuality. It's about when we're in a situation, we're put in a situation with someone of the opposite sex, we're choosing to recognize their worth, their value, and their dignity. We're choosing to choose the greatest good so we can love them the best we can. And chastity is not just for like people who are in high school. Chastity is for everyone. So it's a lifelong virtue. So chastity is for priests, nuns, people who are married, single people, all of us. And God calls us to this virtue so we can love others better. God calls us to this virtue so we can seek the greatest good for someone else. So we could seek the greatest good in our relationships. And the great thing is, chastity has nothing to do with our past. It has only something to do with our future. So it doesn't matter what you did last week, what you did 2 years ago. That doesn't matter. Chastity can start today, and we can make a choice to live chaste. We can make a choice to always choose the greatest good in all of our relationships. And then the last point is respect. So the last way to have a healthy relationship, a good relationship, a whole relationship is respect. And respect is understanding the worth that respect is understanding the worth that is attached to ourselves and someone else. And the easiest way to kind of spell this out, the world doesn't want you to respect yourself. The world doesn't want you to respect other people. The world does not want you to respect relationships. The world wants you to belong to the world, but we're called to belong to God. So I have this picture of elephants, and another thing you don't know about me, I love elephants. I have elephant bags, I have elephant pictures, I have an elephant wallet, love elephants. When I was in 4th grade, my school, we went to the zoo and we got to see elephants. And when I was standing in front of the elephant exhibit, I was so like in awe of like their bigness and their beauty and their grayness. My class kept going, and then I was like right there with the elephants, and I didn't realize my class kept going. Another teacher came up and she said, "Child, who do you belong to?" And I'll never forget this. I was in 4th grade, and I was like, "My parents?" And she's like, no, like what class? You're all alone. You need to be with your class. And she got me connected to my class, but that's a question I've asked so many times. Who do I belong to? And I want to ask you, who do you belong to? Do we belong to other people? Do we belong to the world? Or do we belong to God? Our relationships are calling us to go deeper. Our relationships are calling us to choose the greatest good in other people. Now, I know you guys have a lot of questions, and you tweeted some questions in, so I'm going to have Brian come up here, and we're going to answer some of these questions for you.
Great, thanks, Kelly. The first question comes in. Dear Brian, thanks for keeping this anonymous. I really appreciate that. I'm a pot-bellied pig living in... No, just kidding. It's a joke. So first question is this. If the boy you are dating does not want to necessarily go all the way, but wants to do other stuff that you both know is wrong, how do you explain that it is not the best choice for the relationship? What would you say?
Okay, that's a really good question. I would say, what is the other stuff? So I feel like sometimes we don't define other stuff because we know it's bad. So like things that are good, like innately good, it's like we know they're good, but the other stuff in quotes, like hooking up, whatever, sometimes we don't define other stuff because we know as soon as we say it, oh, I'm not called to do that, or I know it's wrong. So I would just say like the fact that you're questioning, that's a good thing. But like, what is that other stuff? And is that other stuff leading people closer to God, or is it leading them further away from God? And when you think about other stuff, specifically sexual sin, how is that choosing the greatest good for someone else? How is that calling someone forward, calling someone up? I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I saw this chastity talk when I was like in junior high, and the guy said, the line before you're married is hugging, kissing, and holding hands. And I was like, that's ridiculous. But I think it's a really good answer. And I think that sometimes, you know, in a relationship, you have two people, and even if one of them is thinking totally pure thoughts of rainbows and butterflies and pure love, like you don't necessarily know what the other person's thinking. And so not assuming the worst of them, but looking out for their purity, looking out for their chastity, Is this something that you would want your future spouse doing with someone else? Is a great question to ask. And is this something that you would do in front of his or her father? It may sound brutal. It may sound brutal, but gosh, what a good way to uphold our dignity.
And I just want to speak to a few practical things. So I heard someone once say, how far is too far? As soon as you close the door. Like putting yourself like in that near occasion of sin. Or like the other practical thing is like when you're watching a movie, do you have all feet on the ground? Or are you like cuddle it? You know what I mean? Like practical things. Two people, do they have 4 feet on the ground? Like do you know what I mean? So like thinking about like what are some practical things I could do to help the person I'm dating, or what are some practical things I could do to help myself?
So another question that came up was, do you have any advice if you need to break up with someone, what's a good way to do it? You know the relationship needs to end, so how can you do it gracefully?
Text someone, no, just kidding. I'm totally kidding, do not do it like that. I think knowing like, we have genuine care for, whoever wrote this, like, this is great because you have care for that other person even though you're going to break up. So knowing, like, how can I be honest? How can I be a person of integrity? And how could I be direct with someone? So it doesn't mean, like, saying all these flowery things or, like, saying, I just don't feel called. But it's recognizing, like, I don't want to waste your time. Like, I felt like I've grown in the relationship, and I feel like we're growing apart. You could use whatever line you want, but knowing like you have their greatest good in mind and communicating that greatest good in mind.
Yeah, I would just say do it quickly. You know what I mean? No one's going to get dumped and be like, wow, that was a great way to break up with me. I really appreciate, here's a thank you card. No, just do it quickly. Do it kindly, do it with love, but do it quickly. All right. Can God really forgive sins against purity?
Totally. Okay, so God can forgive any sin. The only sin God can't forgive are the sins we don't ask forgiveness for. Now, if there's a sin you're holding on to, I want you to recognize the enemy wants you to hold on to that sin. The enemy wants that to be in the dark. The enemy doesn't want you to say that, but recognizing God can forgive any sin as long as we bring it to him in confession. And the greatest thing, if you're nervous about going to confession, maybe talk to someone else who went, because anytime a person experiences that sacrament, that healing sacrament, they walk out and they're just so happy. They're so at peace. So talk to someone who's been there, who's went to confession. And the other thing, the scripture says, like every morning, God brings me mercy. So God's mercy is readily available as long as we're seeking that mercy.
Great. This is, one that's come up before. Is it a mortal sin if I've been raped?
All right, so no, it is not a mortal sin if you've been raped. On the part of the rapist, yes, it's a mortal sin. But on the part of the victim, no. It's not even a venial sin, okay? So if you've been raped, if you've been sexually abused, guys and girls, happens to a lot of people. An audience, probably 1 in every 3. It's really sad. But I would just encourage you to know that there's healing, to know that you are not alone, there is healing. It's a journey to be walked, but God wants to affirm you in that you are not alone. And what happened is not your fault. So when I was 17, I was violated. And through that, I didn't share it with anyone for a really long time. And through that experience, once I shared it with someone who I trusted, an adult, God's healing was so readily available. So if you've never shared it with anyone, I want to encourage you, share it with a priest, share it with your youth minister, share it with your small group leader, whoever, because God desires healing in your life, and God wants to make something new. So you are not defined by what happened to you. God loves you. The church wants to support you and walk with you.
Great. So, how do you know when you found the one? That's the one.
I'm still working on it. I can share a little bit about this, but Brian, I'm hoping you can shed a little bit more light. So I'm not married, no ring. If you have like an older brother or uncle, no, just kidding. So how do you know you found the one? I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for, and then Brian will share how he knew he found the one with his wife. I'm looking for a guy who's a protector, a provider, and a spiritual leader. Those three qualities, and I want someone who's going to get me to heaven and who's going to journey with me to heaven.
Yeah, so my wife, one way that I knew that she was the one is that my head and my heart agreed. I had dated girls that were really great, virtuous, beautiful, holy women. And on paper, like I knew in my head, these are great girls, but my heart just wasn't there. And then I had been attracted to girls that were not good for me. And I don't mean that they weren't good, I just meant me and them together were equal bad, right? So, but for the first time, my head and my heart agreed. And friends and family that saw us together from the outside, because they were not, in the middle of the relationship, from the outside, they could say, Brian, I know you, and you are becoming more yourself in this relationship. Her friends and family could say the same. Courtney, you're becoming more yourself. See, love makes us more of ourselves. We become fully alive in healthy relationships. In other relationships, we don't. I'm convinced that in almost any relationship, great or terrible, the first few months feel like heaven. And you need friends and family that can say, get out, that are not in the midst of the relationship that can say, get out. And I think for me, like Kelly was just talking about, the chastity was not a no, don't do these bad things, but a yes. That what God wants to hold us back from is to protect us from hurt and pain so that we can say yes to the great joy and the great beauty and the great plan that he has for our lives. When I met my wife, when I married my wife, I was so grateful for all the times that God had said no in the past, for the yes that he was preparing me for. Based off your experience, what relationship advice would you give your own son or daughter?
I think I would say three things, and these are three things I did after I had my conversion in high school. Find someone who goes to Mass, so goes to Sunday Mass. Find someone who prays every single day. So they just don't pray because of like really good things, but they pray like good, mediocre, bad. They pray. They're a person of prayer. And find someone who is willing to choose purity with you, who's willing to guard your heart and choose the best for you. I don't know if you...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a silly thing to think that, that your purity is something that should be tolerated, or, someone respects my boundaries. Like, you want someone that's going to defend your boundaries, both men and women. Someone that's not just going to put up with your rules and your ideas of what's pure, but someone who's going to look out for you and defend your dignity. If you don't have a good relationship with one of your parents, but you want to help strengthen their faith, what do you do?
First, I would say pray. So if you don't have a good relationship with your parents, pray. Like, pray, because know that there's hope and God can restore all things, and God could restore your relationship with your mom or with your dad. And next, how do you share your faith with your parents if maybe like you don't have a good relationship with them? I would say it's by the way we live our lives every single day. So not just by going to a Steubenville conference, but how do you live your life every single day? How do you encourage your parents, like, hey, Mom, I'm going to Mass. Like, come to Mass with me. Or how do you invite someone? Because I think sometimes we have the tendency to call people out constantly and to nag and to pick at them. But, like, how do we love someone? Like, how are we charitable towards someone with our words, with our actions, with what we do on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think that's something that's always intimidating, right? Like, it's easy to tell strangers about God's love, but it's hard to tell people the gospel when they've seen you being impatient or they've seen you be angry. And I think our family can be the hardest people to love and the hardest people to evangelize because they've seen us at our worst. But really, like, yeah, our love will speak volumes, and I think the way that we show our parents that we care through our words and our actions. This is great. I think we have time for one more question. This is a question coming from, I think, a chaperone. Just a question about about professional relationships, people you work with. for those people who may find themselves in jobs or careers where it's difficult or impossible to speak about your faith openly, like teachers, therapists, etc., how do you show people Christ's love without explicitly talking about the faith?
I think it's all about a daily basis. So like, if you're on a phone call with someone, like, are you a jerk to someone because you're impatient, or do you show like the gifts of kindness, the gifts of love, the gifts of charity? When you're walking around the office, are you on your phone a lot, or are you like attent to someone's need? I don't know about you, but like I could get so distracted with my iPhone. And when I get so distracted, I'm not aware of my surroundings. When I get so distracted, I'm not aware of other people. So it's by asking someone, hey, how are you? Or hey, I noticed you might be a little upset. Is there anything I can do? Like, how can we love them better? And through our actions, we will lead them to Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to love people and to pray for opportunities to share our faith. One of my friends works for a TV network, not a religious place at all. But he's a really good friend to his coworkers. Such a good friend that when something seems off, he will just keep showing his concern. And in several cases, they really have confided, gosh, what's really going on in their lives. And in some cases, that's been an opening to sharing his faith, to talking about Jesus. And they're willing to hear it because they know how much he cares about them. So you guys are great. It's 3:30 right now, and so we have a couple, this free time. There's a magic show in here, meet and greet in the gallery. Small groups can meet, and there's also the scavenger hunt around. This is a recharge time. And then 4:30, there's breakout sessions. You guys are great. We'll see you soon.